Murder Burger.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Murder Burger. I'm Landon.
And I'm Rick.
And today we will be discussing the Jonestown murder and Green River Killer. Jim Jones, the leader of the People's Temple, was a very powerful and manipulative figure that influenced the lives of many. From the outside perspective, the People's Temple seemed like a great institution that provided a home for many. In exchange for giving up their possessions and savings, the church provided its followers with shelter, healthcare, food, clothing, and other necessities. Jim Jones set out to create a settlement in Guyana, but in the end, around 900 Americans followed him there, where he led them to their death. Some call it a mass murder, and others call it a mass suicide.
Some reasons why it would be considered a mass murder is because Jim Jones led all those people to Jonestown only to command them to submit to death. He persuaded the parents to give their children peace, which came from the death. Armed guards also shot and killed members of the church by the airplane. When I was first watching the documentary, I had no idea what to think because it took such a dark turn. I was confused as to how the people could be so moved to commit suicide. But this just goes to show how powerful Jim Jones was with his words.
And it could also be considered a mass suicide because most of the people there took their own lives by drinking Kool-Aid mixed with cyanide. One of the creepiest parts to me was that there was a person that left a note asking for their story to not be forgotten. The person said that this ending wasn't what they wanted, and Jim Jones transformed a positive mission into a dark and twisted murder-suicide. I'd consider him a murderer, but not with his actions, but rather with his words. He used his words to manipulate the people and ultimately bring them to their death.
In both the Jonestown murders and the Green River Killer murders, the murderer is obviously abnormal in terms of their mental health. Could these killers be considered insane, or were they aware of the nature of their actions? Although he came from an unstable poor family, Jim Jones was very charismatic, which allowed him to gain a loyal following despite his hidden insanity and perversions. His power and control over the People's Temple are what holds him responsible for the deaths, as he led all these people to die under his command. Although paranoid, he feared the consequences of what would happen to him, which led to his suicide.
And with Gary Ridgway, there were similar signs of mental illness and serial killer traits in his life. Like Jim Jones, he appeared completely normal from the outside. No one suspected him to be the Green River Killer. He killed each of his victims individually, however. The interesting part about Ridgway is that he killed on impulse, seemingly without control. He killed just to see what it felt like, and he even killed one woman he had a strong emotional connection to. Jim Jones killed because of his lust for power and control, and his religious movement all lived under his command. Although not as paranoid and power-hungry as Jim Jones, Ridgway was also mentally unstable. He killed quickly, focusing on the act of killing rather than the power or the process, and he did so without remorse. Knowing the backgrounds and thought processes of Jones and Ridgway helped to compare these two very different types of murderers. Alright, appreciate you guys watching our video.
We'll see you next time, but make sure to catch Wes and Annie's video for continued discussion about the Green River Killer and Jim Jones.